So it is this kind of stuff why God ends up stepping in to humble and then has to purge himself. Evil. I said he did it with JFK, and I'm going to explain why he ends up, and he would rather men in high places do the right thing. And in the case when it comes to doing the right thing and worrying about your poll numbers, so Charlie Kirk was the modern day example of where there were many people that should have called him out. I mean, I was, but I'm not somebody in some high position. Because God would rather mankind, if they were surrendering to him, do the right thing. And God will bless you for that. But when mankind doesn't, and mankind wants to keep their foot in the Roman Empire kingdom while saying we're going to make it all great again, and then and fine, but there should have been people in high places calling out Charlie Kirk. Why would I say? I have been a Trump supporter since the beginning. I have thousands of videos proving that. But I've said, since God got my attention, starting in 2018, and then definitely in 2020, that at the end of the day, no matter how much I like somebody, he's who, that's the will I do, is his. So what ends up happening is everybody has to be humbled because God purges somebody because of man's refusal to know God well enough to realize, wait, I want my kingdom. See, eventually it comes to this point where God is going to force his kingdom. He is, because there's enough of us that we don't want the Roman Empire anymore, no matter how great you want to make it. No matter what the left says, no matter what the right says. Because it will always be all of this. These people don't know God. They don't do the right thing. They just lay their head on the pillow at night and tell themselves, well, I pray to God, so I believe in him. Yeah, believing in him and doing his will are two different things. So whoever all the faith leaders are in the White House, they're failing at their job, okay? Take it, and you know what? Pray about it then if you don't believe me. See, God purges the evil from our midst. Charlie Kirk, I said before it even happened, he was up to no good. But the Trumps, they played on their own will with that. They did. Because it's easy to happen to everybody. It's like, oh no, God would agree with this. And so they just go head first into, no, I have to worry about the poll numbers because I'm doing the right thing by the country. What matters is that you do the right thing by God. And when it comes to any big influencer, and this was the problem with Kennedy, why God had to purge Kennedy, is when they are up to wickedness and you say nothing about it because they're helping you, then that's a problem. And maybe they didn't know it. I don't know. I think more it's that Charlie Kirk had all this influence on these campuses. I mean, God tests all of us. Some of this is even tests for the administration, everyone. So I have, not that they would ever see this video or listen to me, because the reason John had to write, God wanted John to write the book of Revelation, is because God knows the hardest head to break is man's, especially ones in high position that think they're doing his will, and because they're getting all this praise, they put the praise they're getting above doing God's will. It's easy to happen, so I'm not trying to judge here, because it's very easy for us to fall back into our own will. Just like this idea, when God said give to Caesar's what is Caesar's, he didn't mean give 12 hours of your day to him and then the rest to God. No, he didn't want you to have a divided loyalty. Not once Jesus came. Not once Jesus came. Because then union was being restored within man and woman. And we were supposed to live under God's kingdom. But man decided, no, we're going to run with Paul. And we're going to just disregard the fact that none of that made any sense. It doesn't. They added Paul. I'm not trying to say Apostle Paul was not legit. He wasn't an original apostle though. All of the initial apostles, and maybe him too, but he wasn't one that followed. He never knew Jesus. But all the initial apostles, they were the example of Jesus. Why? Because that's what Jesus wanted you to do. Not because he wanted you to live in poverty, but because he didn't want you to live under any of these kingdoms, the left, the right, none of this nonsense. But it meant mankind, because you had free will, just like in the garden. Here, the curse is lifted, even though man's kept us under the curse. It meant having to surrender to God. And man has a hard time with surrender. So what ends up happening? We'll all suffer because of them not wanting to do the right thing here, even to this day. The Trumps, all of them, they carry on about, what a patriot he was. Okay, so not doing God's will. Just looking out at the landscape saying, oh no, God would be happy. Have you checked in with him on that? You really should. But I don't think a lot of I think most especially people in powerful positions, they're kings. And they think that, it's sort of like Jeremiah in King Zedekiah, okay? I mean, it's the same thing Jeremiah experienced. Except we're past the Old Testament, okay? We're to the point where people do have the Spirit of God in them, just like Jeremiah. And so when they're telling you, no, you should have called this out so that God didn't need to get to a point of purging them. And then when you run around and say, carry on about this name, then, God raises up the meek to try to get your attention. That you need to start surrendering to him more so that you understand. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to believe me. But, look, God has shown me many truths in the past 5 years. More than, all the time that I've walked with him. And I've walked with him a long time. And many times I'm just like, why would you want me to speak on any of this? I'm just a nurse. And it's because that's what he did with the apostles. Were nobodies, but they were somebody to him. And so even if it means calling out people I support, because I've supported Donald Trump forever, God's will be done at the end of the day. It's about God's kingdom, not their kingdom.